Good evening, my dear friends. In today's class, we are going to learn another new but an important alternative 20th century movements in English language teaching. So far, we have learned so many methods starting from CLT, MI, TBLT, and CLL, CLIL, like that. In this list, we have one important method where in most of the classes we have seen English teachers as vibrant one, as group participant. But in this particular method, we can see the different aspect of the teacher that is reflected in the title itself, that is the silent way. So let's enter into the syllabus and acquire more knowledge about this particular silent way. This particular class follows this order. In the beginning, we will be learning the introduction, that is the background of the silent way. And second, we will learn the approach, where it includes two things, theory of language as well as theory of language learning. And third one, we will be learning the design, where we will learn all the elements starting from objectives, syllabus, activities, role of the learner, teacher, and materials. And then we will come to know the procedure of silent way, and then we will conclude with the advantages and disadvantages or the reception of silent way in ELT tradition. So first, let's enter into the introduction aspect of this particular method called silent way. Have you ever seen this particular image anywhere? Is there anybody who comes to your mind? Absolutely. It is mostly our own image will come to us, and where as a kid we have seen this, sometimes we would have struggled with many elements. Abacus. Today in this method also we will learn any one of that particular sort, okay, where we will come to know the use of color coded chart and wooden sticks, colored wooden sticks called Cuisenaire rods. So let's enter into it. This particular method was devised by Gallup Categno, who was born in the year 1911, and he was an Egyptian educator, psychologist, as well as mathematician. And he is one of the influential and prolific mathematicians and educators of the 20th century, where he has contributed both the area of mathematics as well as in language teaching tradition, and he was the author of more than 120 books. And here in the silent way, he has revived the interest in the use of colored wooden sticks called Cuisenaire rods. You could have seen here where in this particular plate they have many colored wooden rods are there, wooden sticks are there. So where it is called as Cuisenaire rods after the name of Cuisenaire. And he has written a lot of series of books, especially in words and color, where he has put forth his ideas on teaching of initial reading, in which sounds are coded by specific color. So each color has been acclaimed to a particular sound, where the learner must keep that sound and the color in the mind, and they have to read by use of these wooden sticks. And he is the one, Gallup Categno. He said, okay, I don't teach, I let them learn. So through that, the way silent way method has come. The teacher has to be quiet, the teacher has to be silent, and where the learner has to discover on their own. In silent way, the lesson processes to number of stages, and beginning they will be having the practice towards the pronunciation. So in a similar way, with pronunciation practice will be taken place. As the days go, it will be moving towards the practice of simple sentence patterns, the structures, the vocabulary. Even in the vocabulary, they will go in a particular order, and where it is based on the premise that a teacher should be silent as much as possible in the classroom, where the learner must encourage themselves to produce as much as language in the classroom. Through that, the method has been titled as the silent way method. The teacher has to be silent and the learner has to speak a lot. So here we could see the elements of silent way. So here particularly the use of colored charts. It is also called as Fidel charts, Fidel, Fidel charts. And also we will be using the colored Cuisenaire rods. It grew out of Gattagno's previous experience as he was the designer of reading and mathematics programs, where these particular Cuisenaire rods were first developed by Georges Cuisenaire, and then it has been named by his thing, Cuisenaire rod. So Georges Cuisenaire, through that the name has come over. So this Georges Cuisenaire was an European educator, and where Gallup-Gattagno has used this particular idea once it was used for mathematical thing, and he observed the ideas of Cuisenaire rods, and this gave him a hint on second language reading. Why can't we use these color coded charts or Cuisenaire rods for teaching English language reading? So he has applied that particular method into this particular approach. So before we enter into this particular method in detail, it is good to watch this particular video where it is focused entirely on pronouncing the words. How for the pronunciation the learner has used the rods in 3 or 4 levels. So let's watch it.
Hi, this is English, and today I'm going to show you how you can use Cuisenaire rods to help your students with word stress. First, elicit or select the appropriate number of rods, one for each syllable of the chosen word. For example, photograph. Then, ask the student to place a smaller rod on the stressed syllable and pronounce the word. Photograph. To demonstrate the change in word stress, repeat the exercise with another word, for example, photographer. And the stress, photographer. Make sure when you do this that the exercise is aimed at the student and not yourself. This gives a highly visual and kinesthetic approach which appeals to most learners and definitely changes the pace of the lesson, and it's a bit of fun.
Now you will come to know the aspect of rods in pronouncing the words. Now let's enter into the another aspect of this particular method, that is approach, that is theory of language and theory of language learning. First let's focus on theory of language. The first one is silent way takes structural approach to the organization of language to be taught. So as soon as I said structural approach, structuralism, you would be having your own mind of it. Phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics. So sounds and words, and through that I form the sentence, okay, the words, and then I will come to know the meaning of it. In silent way also, the learners are exposed to the pronunciation, the sounds of the language, and then the formation of the words, and then through the sentence, and the last aspect is on the meaning of it. So first aspect is structural approach. The first one is silent way takes structural approach to the organization of language to be taught. So as soon as I said structural approach, structuralism, you would be having your own mind of it. Phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics. So sounds and words, and through that I form the sentence, okay, the words, and then I will come to know the meaning of it. In silent way also, the learners are exposed to the pronunciation, the sounds of the language, and then the formation of the words, and then through the sentence, and the last aspect is on the meaning of it. So first aspect is structural approach. Second one is the very important thing about the uniqueness of the language, that is called as the spirit of the language. So what is that spirit of the language, and what is composed of, what is consisted of? So the concept is very simple. The way language is composed of certain elements is called spirit of the language. So according to Gattegno, he sees language is composed of two elements. First one is phonological elements, second one is suprasegmental elements. And when I say phonological elements, it will be called as, let it be phoneme, allophones, vowels, consonants, diphthongs. So the phonological elements. And when I say suprasegmental elements, this is also called as prosodic features of the language. So what do you mean by this suprasegmental or prosodic features of the language? So when we say prosodic or suprasegmental, it is the speech features like stress, tone, pitch, volume, tempo, rhythm, intonation. These are called as the suprasegmental elements or the prosodic elements of a language. Can you tell it? Stress, tone, pitch, volume, tempo, rhythm, and intonation. So where all these speech features elements combined, all these suprasegmental elements combined and give the language a unique sound, a unique melody to it. Just imagine I speak to you something where there is no intonation, where I speak in the same range and I didn't give emphasis on any words and I maintain a serious tone. Will you be listening to it all the time? Absolutely not. So where all these elements, let it be stressing of a word or the tone or the pitch and the volume and the tempo and the rhythm and the intonation, rise and fall of the sounds, give this particular unique sound system and a kind of melody to the language. And this particular aspect of prosodic elements give a kind of a feel towards the learner, and this particular prosodic and phonological elements give the spirit to the language, that is the unique elements of the language. Okay, so where you can see in this image the word photo has taken photo, okay, where the stress has been given, and where the biggest circle is mentioned on the stress that has been given. Photographic, photography, photograph, photographer. So where the stress has been changed and it should be noticed. Okay, so this is called as the spirit of the language. Okay, so having stated that, let's watch this particular video where you can see a group of learners be seated and where the professor is demonstrating a particular word, chocolate and chocolate. So where the learners have to be decided and they have to create by having that particular questionnaire routes. So let's watch this video which focuses on syllabus as well as stress.
Apple. Apple. How many syllables?
Two syllables.
2 syllables.
Yeah.
Which syllable is the strong syllable?
First.
The first one or the second one?
First.
First. Apple.
Apple.
Apple. Okay. Spaghetti.
Spaghetti. Yes. Spaghetti. I know. I think. Yeah, what do you think?
I think here.
Yeah.
How many syllables? 4 syllables, you think?
Yeah.
You think 4?
Yeah.
Listen to me. Listen to me. Spaghetti.
3.
Spaghetti. How many syllables?
3.
Spaghetti.
Yeah.
Do you like Vera's answer?
Yeah. Yeah.
Alex, what do you think?
Yes.
You like this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
Okay. So we have apple, spaghetti.
Spaghetti.
Okay. Tomatoes. Tomatoes.
Tomatoes.
Okay, let's put it round here so everybody can see. Like that? Is that good?
No.
No?
So, sorry.
Keep that one. Just can you use this one? This is
Tomato.
so
Yes.
like this.
Tomato.
Tomatoes.
Yes.
Yeah? Tomatoes.
Yes.
Ah, so that's the same, isn't it?
Yeah.
Look.
Yes.
Spaghetti, tomatoes.
Yes.
Okay,
Correct?
it's good.
Oh.
It's good. Okay, here's a difficult one for you. Chocolate.
Chocolate.
Oh. Chocolate.
Like that?
Chocolate. No.
Listen to me. Chocolate.
The first
How many
one.
syllables?
Chocolate.
How many?
Two.
Chocolate. 2. Just 2.
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
Chocolate. Ah. Chocolate. Oh, it's the same as
Yes.
apple. Chocolate.
Yeah.
Strong and then not strong.
Yes.
Okay. Can you think of any more words? Like this or like this? Any more food? Can you think of some different words? We had.
Pasta.
Where's pasta?
Pasta.
Is it this one or this one?
Yes.
This one is
Pas.
Oh, this is not
No. Pas.
pasta.
Pasta.
spaghetti.
This. Same.
It's
pasta.
this.
Yeah.
Same as apple.
Yeah. Pasta.
Same as chocolate.
Yeah.
Apple. Chocolate. Pasta.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. It's correct, yeah.
Yeah.
Listen to this sentence. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. Listen again. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. Okay, listen. If you think you know the sentence, you can say it with me.
Yeah.
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. Of chocolates, yes? Of chocolates. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. Okay. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. I'd like you
to buy me a nice box of chocolate. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolate.
Good. Listen. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
Very good. Again.
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
Very good. Gabriella?
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
Okay. Can you make the end bigger, chocolates.
Chocolates.
Okay?
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
Very nice. Okay, Eduarda?
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
Very good. Okay, Julia?
I like you to nice. No.
I'd like you to...
buy me to a nice.
I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
I like.
I'd like.
I like you.
I'd like.
I'd like you to buy me
A nice box of chocolates.
Good, good. Thank you. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates. Not take it from another person, not steal it. I'd like you to buy me a nice box of chocolates.
Very good. I hope you could understand the role of these cuisine rods in learning the language, especially in the pronunciation aspect of it. So where next we move to the theory of language, where we could see the third but important element, that is vocabulary. For any language, vocabulary is very important. And here Gattagno sees vocabulary as a central dimension of language and language learning. But the choice of vocabulary is very much crucial. So we have some 3 layers or 3 levels of vocabulary in silent way. By the way, it has been asked in semester exam in the previous years also. So first one is semi-luxury vocabulary, second one is luxury vocabulary, and third one is functional vocabulary. Can you repeat? Semi-luxury, luxury and functional vocabulary. So where semi-luxury vocabulary consists of expressions that is very common in the daily life of the target language culture. Let it be the vocabulary of the basic things like food, clothing, travel and family life, etc. So the basic common categories that we speak of, that is called as semi-luxury. A luxury vocabulary is the words that we use in communicating more specialized ideas. Okay, if you use more specialized ideas, the words that you use for communicating, especially the political and philosophical opinions, are called luxury vocabulary, because we didn't use that much. Okay, luxury. Society, many people are not luxurious, right? So only few. So the vocabulary that you use only in certain elements and where it is somewhat of abstract ideas, opinions. Okay, so luxury vocabulary, which means that is used in communicating more specialized ideas. Third, but the very important vocabulary in silent way is functional vocabulary. That is the areas of pronouns, numbers, comparison words, like this. So where it may refer to oneself as well as to others. According to Gattagno, this third level of vocabulary predominates the other 2 vocabulary. So this helps the learners to comprehend the spirit of the language. Okay, so I repeat, so far we have learned theory of language, where we have come across 3 main crucial elements, where the first one is of structural approach, second one is of the spirit of the language, phonological elements and suprasegmental elements, and third one is of vocabulary, semi-luxury, luxury and functional vocabulary. Having stated this, we'll enter into the next aspect of approach, that is theory of language learning, theory of learning. In theory of language learning, we have 2 important aspects, where the first idea is cognitive code theory of learning. So second one is learning hypothesis. Underlining Gattagno's work, we will be learning 3 important hypotheses. Again, it is also asked in semester exam in the previous years. So first let's learn about what do you mean by cognitive code theory of learning. So here they see language learning as a kind of a mental activity. Okay, language learning is understood as a kind of mental activity, where here in this particular aspect, learner is a lone scientist or a lone explorer, where in the lab the scientist will be working alone with his or her own materials to be analyzed. In the same way, in the silent way classroom, the learner will be seated with the rods or the charts where they have to analyze and find out the crucial elements of it, and where the learner should build up his or her understanding of language from the exposure that they get and the experience that they gain. Okay, so that's what I have given. Building up his or her understanding of language from exposure to and experience of it. Okay, so where it is mostly of cognitive, it is the properties of your mind. Okay, so this process involved in acquiring knowledge, storing it and retrieving it. Three aspects. First one is I have to acquire, I have to receive the knowledge. Second one, whatever I have acquired, I have to store it in my mind. Third one, I have to keep it in my memory and bring it back, retention of it when it is needed. I repeated three things involved in cognitive code theory of learning: acquiring knowledge, storing the knowledge and retrieving the knowledge. So second very important thing is about learning hypothesis that underlined Gattagno's work. So it was also asked in 2 marks earlier. So where three learning hypothesis which means the statement which has to be, it may be true or may not be true, that we have to do a test of it and we have to tell it. So according to Gattagno, he has given these assumptions, but most of the times these assumptions seem to be true. Okay, so that is what we are going to learn. So the first hypothesis is learning is facilitated if the learner discovers or creates rather than remembers and repeats what is to be learned. Just understand the word learning is facilitated, which is in all the three hypotheses. Facilitate, which means makes the process easier. Here makes the language learning process easier. So language learning process would be easier on a particular condition. What is a condition? If the learner discovers or creates. It is not something that the teacher is telling and the learners are repeating it again and again, where the teacher is giving the demonstration and where the learner is depending on the teacher. Not at all. Rather, learning would be much more faster and easier only when the learner discovers on his own or on her own or creates on her own, not on only remembering and repeating as it is in audiolingual method. And the second hypothesis is learning is facilitated by accompanying, by mediating, by operating certain physical objects. So what do you mean by that? So here learning would be somewhat faster and easier if I learn with any of the objects, if I learn with any of the materials. Okay, so here in silent way, I would be using either Cuisenaire rods or I may be using color-coded charts. By the help of these things, I will be learning the language easier. Third, but very important thing, that is learning is facilitated by problem solving involving material to be learned, where the involvement of the learner matters a lot. Okay, so that is what we are going to learn here in detail, where each of the learning hypothesis will be taken and we'll see to it and we will learn it. So first LH1, that is learning hypothesis 1, that is this: if the learner discovers or creates rather than remembers and repeats what is to be learned. So here we have been given Jerome Bruner, who was an educational psychologist as well as the philosopher. He distinguished two traditions of teaching. Who has given this? Jerome Bruner. Okay, he was an educationalist as well as a psychologist, philosopher also. So those two traditions are expository mode, another one is hypothetical mode. Expository mode and hypothetical mode. So here expository mode, which means the decisions covering the mode, the pace which means the speed of it, and the style of exposition are principally determined by the teacher. Okay, so everything, let it be the mode of it, let it be the speed of it, and let it be the style of exposing it. Everything is determined by the teacher, where the student is just a mere learner. Okay, listener. Teacher is a centered, dominated one, and learner is a listener one. So the word expository, which means a kind of authorship, a kind of dictatorship. So here the power is entirely on the teacher. Teacher has the control or the power over deciding mode, pace and style of exposing the content, where the learner is merely a listener. Okay, who will be having a lot of control is the teacher will be having it. And the second tradition that he says is hypothetical mode. So hypothetical, which means the teacher and the student are in a more cooperative position. It is 50-50. Teacher is 50% and learner is 50%. So they are more in a cooperative position, and here in this particular method the students are not a bench bound listeners, rather they take part in the formation of the mode of, the pace of, the style of exposing the content. So both, okay, the learner as well as the teacher play the principal role in this particular method. So here in hypothetical mode, nobody is a predominant one, rather it is cooperative. Both the teacher as well as the learners are in a cooperative position. Okay, so here in this particular method, learners are not simply sitting and going. They are not a bench bound listeners. They have to work on, find out, discover and they learn. Whereas the first one, teacher is a predominant one and learner is just a bench bound listener. Comparing these two teaching traditions, expository and hypothetical, they find that silent way belongs to the second tradition, that is hypothetical mode, which views language learning as a kind of problem solving, as a kind of creative endeavor, and discovering the activity in which the learner is a principal actor rather than a bench bound listener. In silent way, the learner has to work, have to take the responsibility and learn it, finding out on it on his or her own. So learner discovers or creates rather than remembers and repeats. It is happening only in the hypothetical mode of language teaching, and silent way follows that particular tradition. And second one is about learning is facilitated by accompanying or mediating physical objects. As I said earlier, in silent way we will be using color coded charts, that is fiddle charts, as well as Cuisenaire rods, where the learners handle it in their hands, where it is the physical focus. Okay, so by using that they have to remember, oh, pink color means it is of a, okay, where I take blue color rod, B, okay, B sound, okay, K, G, Ch, J, for each sound they have a unique color, they have to keep it in mind, and where they have to create some memorable images as the students recall the words. So by using these rods and charts, since they are dealing with in their hands, learners get a kind of attention towards learning. So learning will be somewhat better. That was the opinion of this particular silent way method. So visual devices serve as associative medias for students learning and recalling. Whereas the third one, which is very important one, that is learning is facilitated by problem solving involving the material to be learned. In one word, we could tell it as learner must be a problem solver. Okay, how can I solve problem? Individually. Okay, and here they have quoted Benjamin Franklin words: tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, involve me and I learn. Where in first certain methods, tell me and I forget. Okay, audio language, the teacher tells, learner repeats and the learner forgets. Second one, teach me and I remember. Sometimes the teacher teaches, the learners learn, but they won't that much, rather slightly they remember. But the third important thing, involvement of the learner matters a lot. So where involve me and I learn. So that happens in silent way, where the subject involvement promotes greater learning. Here the subject, what we say is the students' involvement. They hear, they see and they feel it in their hands. All these sensorical things addressed to the brain. You can see the image, hear, see, feel. So each one, they experience it, they involve it, so the depth of learning would be more. Okay, directly addressed by the brain. Okay, so the experimental psychologists believe that the involvement of the learners make the language learning process easier. Second one, recalling through the materials to be learned gives a lot of cognitive depth. So this will lead to the problem solving activity. Okay, so the teacher gave me a task of producing a sound by giving me the rods in my hand, and he has given me one model of it, one example of it. I have to be concentrated enough and I have to learn it and I have to keep it in mind and I have to remember, acquiring, storing and retaining. I learned when my teachers stated it, and I keep it in my mind and I could feel the rods in my hand. So both I heard, I saw and I felt. So that it is in my brain and I have to bring it out. I have to develop a new thing. That is problem solving. Okay, so it is not the teacher is teaching all the time, rather the learner must be involved and they have to learn on their own. Another important aspect that we have to notice in silent way is the teacher's strict avoidance of repetition forces a lot of alertness and concentration on the part of the learners. In other methods, teacher would be being with you all the time. They will be scaffolding you or they will be demonstrating and you will be repeating after it. Where here the teacher should give only once. After that, the teacher must keep quiet. Okay, where the learner has been given only one chance. In that one chance, the learner must listen to the teacher and they have to be attentive and they have to be alert and concentration should be more, because even the second time if you ask, the teacher will not tell you. Okay, so that is a very important thing. And the next one is the silent way student is expected to become an independent learner, autonomous learner, and the very important thing, responsible learner. They have to be independent, autonomous and responsible. IAR, independent, autonomous, responsible. So where in other words we could also tell it as learner is a good problem solver in the language. Okay, so Gattagno also states that a learner who learns the mother tongue is not in the same way that he learns the second language. So there is a radical difference between L1 and L2. The way that I have learnt my mother tongue is not the same that I am learning any other language. Okay, so that's what he said. You can't learn the second language in the way that you have learned the mother tongue. So he demands that the learner must be aware of the language. The learner must be attentive. Okay, the learner must produce it. And if there is any mistake, the learner has to correct himself or herself. And through that experience, they have to absorb the knowledge. So that's what he said. First is attention. Second is production. Okay, I have to be attentive when my teacher tells, when my teacher demonstrates. Second one is I have to produce the same. Third one, suppose if I make any mistake, I have to correct myself. The teacher will not tell. Rather, he will be trying from you only. If not you, he will go to the another learner. And through that, you have to correct by yourself, self-correction. And the fourth one is you absorb that particular point and express it in your own words. So we have learnt so far the theory of language, and in theory of language learning we have seen both the cognitive code, which is a mental activity, acquiring, storing and retrieving the knowledge, and second we have seen 3 learning hypotheses. Okay, now we move to the next aspect of this particular lesson, that is design. In design, we are going to learn objective, syllabus, teaching and learning activities, role of learner, teacher and role of instructional materials. Objective. The general objective, general goal, immediate objective. 3 things have been given. General objective here is the learner must get the beginning level oral and oral facility. Oral and oral. Listening as well as speaking facility must be there. Okay, so to give beginning level students the oral and oral facility, that is the first objective. Second one is to get the native speaker fluency, to speak like a native speaker. Okay, it is a generic goal, general goal, where the target learner must speak like a native speaker, where the focus is more on the correct pronunciation and the mastery of the prosodic suprasegmental elements also, both the phonological and the suprasegmental elements. The third immediate goal is to provide the learner with the basic practical knowledge of the grammar. Okay, that is very important. First one is oral and oral facility. Second one is on to speak like a native speaker, and for that you should have pronunciation as well as the mastery of prosodic elements. Third one is you should be acquiring the grammar of the language. Whereas the syllabus, we follow structural syllabus in silent way, and where the focus is on grammatical items as well as the vocabulary. Okay, and there is no general silent way syllabus so far. Okay, we don't have, but if you follow the structural syllabus, which gives lot of importance for grammar as well as vocabulary. Okay, and start with imperative structures, commands and requests, because Gattagno feels that it is somewhat easy for the learner to deal with, because since it is action words and it will be easy for the learners to grasp it. And if you want to add new elements in it, you could add it gradually. The gradation must be there, simple to complex. So first you can teach them the plural forms of the nouns that they knew it already. Pen, pens. Okay, like that. Second one is numeration. Okay, numeration in the sense first, second, third, fifth, okay, 6, like that, 7, 8 in the numbers or the order of it, second, third, fourth, fifth, 11th, 12th, like that. And next one is preposition of location, where it is, under, beyond, below, okay, near, far, like that, the preposition, position of a noun. And the vocabulary must be selected according to the degree, according to the level of the language learner. And the very important thing is the functional vocabulary. Do you remember? We have learned three aspects, three levels, layers of vocabulary: semi, luxury, and functional. So when we say functional, the pronouns, okay, preposition, numbers, degrees, okay, of comparison, everything must come in. Okay, and here we have been given a kind of an example which has been followed in Thailand. It is a section of the Peace Corps Silent Way syllabus, and it is for 10 hours, first 10 hours of instruction in Thai language. So it was taught to American Peace Corps volunteers and who will be trained in Thailand. So remember, American Corps, okay, and where these cadets have been taught the Thai language, who will be working in Thailand. So here they followed first 15 minutes of every hour of instruction would be entirely on pronunciation. Okay, remember the first thing of the introduction I said, first is on pronunciation, second is on the structure. Okay, so here they have given pronunciation a lot, and the word that has been italicized here could be substituted for by another word occur as the classes grow. So see the example. The same thing you could follow in the procedure of it. So remember it carefully. For example, wood color red. Wood color red. After red you can substitute another colors. Okay, wood color red, wood color green, wood color yellow, wood color brown, wood color pink, wood color white, like this. Second one, in the place of wood you can change anything. The plate color red, the plate color green, like that. So it is about substitution, pronunciation and substitution. Second one, using the numbers from 1 to 10. You can see here, wood color red 1 piece, wood color red 2 pieces, wood color red 3 pieces, wood color red 4 pieces, like that. And you go for the action verbs. Remember I said start with imperatives. Take or pick up wood color red 2 pieces, take or pick up wood color red 4 pieces, like that. And then we have to add the verbs as well as the pronouns. Take wood color red 2 pieces, given. You can see the sentence is developing, gradation is there. And next we focus on the preposition. Would red where? Would red on the table? Would red under the table? Would red near the table? Would red far the table? Would red over the table? Would red here? And would red there? Like that. And would color red on the table, is it? Next we are coming to the question and answer forming, yes or no questions. Yes, would color red is on the table. No, would color red is not on the table, like that. And we go to the adjectives or comparison. Would color red long, would color red, would color green longer, would color orange longest. So long, longer, longest. Remember you have to substitute even other words. Okay, and even the adjectives you have to change it. And would color green taller, would color red is it like. And then we have to review the things that we have taught the students. Okay, see the same thing as here. For each cuisine rod represents a particular part of the grammar. And the color, the learner must keep it in mind. It may not be written like this. Rather, the student must keep it in his mind or in her mind when they have to formulate this particular thing. See, I and all in same. And am, okay, the pronoun, a verb, be form verb, okay, and the noun, it is another one. Article is in the another color, and it is of all the answer. Okay, and we move to the types of learning and teaching activities, where simple linguistic tasks would be given and teacher models a word or a phrase or a sentence and then elicits, brings out the response from the learner. And for that eliciting aspect, teacher can make use of charts, rods or any other visual aids for that aspect to bring out the response from the learner. and these activities may be teacher oriented or teacher directed one, and the responses to commands, questions and visual cues, it is the basis of the classroom activities. Okay, and the learner's role, learner is expected to develop, as I said, independence, autonomy and responsibility, IAR, independence, autonomy and responsibility, and they must depend on their own resources and realize that they can use their own language and discover something. It is not that I have to depend on my teacher, I have to depend on my learner, rather I depend on myself, I depend on my language that I have. Okay, and next one, the learner first experiences in the beginning everything would be somewhat Latin and Greek. Okay, they don't know how to do it. Okay, everything seemed to be a kind of a rare image, but when the learner finds any knack of doing it, or the learner finds any clue of doing it, any strategy to remember doing it, then it will be easy for the learner. Just remember, in the beginning of ELT class, you felt somewhat difficult to understand the pattern of the methods, and then you know, okay, theory of approach, theory of language, language learning, two things, what would be there? Design, 6 elements would be there, what are they? In the same way, when you have been given questionnaire rods, you will get a kind of a clue that you can do something in a particular way, like, okay, and sometimes the learner must act as an individual person, or the another time the learner must work cooperatively with the other learner. Okay, individual work also must be done and cooperative work also must be done. And next important thing is they need to feel comfortable in doing two things. One is correcting each other. My friend is doing a mistake, I have to correct my friend's mistake. Second one, being corrected by each other. I am doing the mistake and I feel okay and glad that my friend is correcting me. So I have to feel comfortable in both correcting each other and corrected by each other. Okay, and the very important thing is the learner must also be a teacher, a student, a part of the support system, a problem solver and a self-evaluator. Then what about the teacher? Teacher should resist their commitment to model or give demonstration or assisting the learner all the time. In all the methods, we have seen teacher as co-partner, co-group participant, nowhere. Okay, but rather here you should not. Teach only once, that's all. Resist yourself. And where Gattegno anticipates that they would require most of their change in the role. Okay, it will be somewhat harsh enough in listening to it, but this is the actuality that is expected from the silent way teacher. 3 ways: teach, test, get out of the way. 3 things: teach, test and get out of the way. So where there won't be any manuals or textbooks available, so where you have to produce on the own, the teachers have to produce on their own. Second one, it is the teacher's responsibility to create an environment, and it also encourages the student to take risk in the class. Okay, so you have to make them to do what they were lacking enough. And next important thing is, most of the classes the teacher would be a kind of an aloof one. Okay, sometimes they may be very harsh or a serious monitor, like mentor, like, and here teacher must be a neutral observer, neutral, a balance between two. They should not be too happy for the correct performance or answer by the learner, neither they should not be discouraged or too sad for the wrong answer that the learner is giving. You have to be neutral. Gives the answer, okay. Gives the wrong answer, okay. Be the neutral observer. And teacher must be like an disinterested judge, and they should be supportive, but emotionally they should not be involved. They emotionally uninvolved. And teacher may use gestures, charts and other visual manipulatives to get a response from the learner. And teacher must be both facile, they must be flexible And sometimes they should also be like a pantomimist, the puppeteer who will not be using the language, rather by action, by pointing out the letter or pointing out the sound or by tapping the table, they could make the learners to give the answer. Rather, they should not be open the mouth. So, on the whole, the teacher is like a complete dramatist. How? Teacher is like a dramatist. They writes the script, they chooses the props, and they sets the mood of the stage, and they models the action, give a demonstration, and they designates the role of the players. And at the end, after the performance, teacher will be like a critic, give a comment over the performance. Okay, so this is what is expected from a teacher. So now let's learn the role of instructional materials. What are the materials that we could use in this particular classroom? The silent way is known for its unique nature of its teaching and teaching materials. So, because the teacher is silent, then what would be the materials that the teacher would use, that we have to see. So, here in silent way, the materials consists mainly of the colored rods, color coded pronunciation charts, or the pointer of showing or pinpointing the letters or sounds, and of the reading and writing exercises that we could use. So it is designed by the teachers, that matters a lot, and they could independently and cooperatively they must make use of it. And they could also use fiddle charts. Fiddle charts are a thing where it contains the symbols, okay, the sounds of a word, and it is an amalgamation of both vowels and consonants of the language, where each sound will be given in a particular color. The learner must remember the color of the thing, and they have to tell the sound of a particular symbol. Okay, so the symbols are color coded according to the pronunciation. Other materials that you could use is, rarely you could use books, worksheets, and worksheets or exercises for practicing the reading and writing skills. Picture books you could use it, tapes, videotapes, films, and other visual aids you could make use of it in teaching and learning activities. So this is what the design of silent way. Now we move into the next aspect, that is the procedure of it. So the first part of the lesson focuses on pronunciation. So according to the learner's level, need and interest, the class might work on the sounds, phrases, sentences, and accordingly you design the fiddle chart. And at the beginning stage, a teacher will give a kind of a demonstration, a model for the sound after pointing a particular symbol in the chart. And where the teacher will next time, the teacher will silently point out the particular sound, and the learners must tell it. So silent way, silent of the teacher and the response of the learner. Okay, and little by little the teacher can improve or add the things gradually. So the teacher can use the pointer to indicate the stress or phrasing or intonation. Sometimes they can tap the chart or the rhythm of the utterance. For example, chocolate, apple, photographer. Like that, teacher can tap either the chart or any other thing, and with that they can try to give the prosodic elements, but they should not open the mouth. And after practice with the sounds of the language, sentence patterns, structure or vocabulary could be practiced, and we could use charts, rods, and other visual related elements in order to elicit the performance of the learners. And remember that the lesson that we have learned, the Peace Corps for American Corps in Thai language in Thailand, you can add that point also in this particular element. So this is a procedure most focused on the pronunciation. Okay. After seeing to it, we come to the last part of this particular method, that is conclusion. So people had a kind of high expectation towards this method because they have never used Cuisinart rods or charts for the language pronunciation. But it didn't give that much hope, rather, it is much less revolutionary than they have expected. It fell out of the expectation and it follows a mere traditional grammar and lexical syllabus. Only thing is, it moves from guided repetition to freer practice, and it promoted with enthusiasm by only small numbers of users in different part of the world so far. It didn't attract the attention of most of the researchers. Only little amount of research that have been done so far. So, in order to tell whether it is somewhat very effective in language teaching, we are in need of much more research in it. But on the other hand, we appreciate the idea of the spirit of the language, the use of vocabulary, the problem solver role of the learner, the self involvement of the learner, the awareness of the learner, where the learner has to take responsibility on themselves. So, these are somewhat, it gives a new hope or new role for the teacher as well as for the student. That aspect we like. At the same time, we are in need of much more research in order to understand the effectiveness and nature of this particular method, silent way. So now let's review. In the beginning, we have seen the introduction of this particular method, where it has been devised by Gallup-Cattagno, and he has revived the interest of teaching the language by using wooden sticks and Cuisinart rods. Okay, and where the first importance is for pronunciation and then for patterns, structure, and vocabulary. The teacher must be silent and the learner must speak most of the times. And when it comes to approach, theory of language, three things: structural approach, spirit of the language, and vocabulary. And where we have been given importance for supra-segmental elements, and it also on the vocabulary, three levels or three layers of vocabulary: semi-luxury, luxury, and functional. It is coming to theory of language learning. We have seen cognitive code theory of learning, which is focused on acquiring knowledge, storing the knowledge, and retrieving the knowledge. Second one is of three learning hypothesis: learner discovers or creates, and accompanying or mediating the physical objects, and then it is like a problem solving one. And it is coming to design. We have seen oral facility and speak like a native speaker, and should be imbibe the grammar rules. And syllabus, structural syllabus, start with imperative and add other elements gradually. And then we have seen types of learning and teaching activities, where it is most of the time teachers directed activity. It is a simple linguistic task, it may be. And learner must be independent, autonomous, and responsibility. They are playing the role of a teacher, student, part of a support system, problem solver, and self-evaluator. Whereas the teacher, three alma mater, three rules: teach, test, get out of the way. And they should be a neutral observer, and they should not be emotionally involved, attached to the learner. And teacher must be like a dramatist, a puppeteer, a pantomimist. And materials, the prior importance of two color-coded charts and rods that must be used. And procedure we have seen. And conclusion, it didn't give that much revolutionary idea that they have expected. We are in need of much more researchers must be done in this particular aspect to tell whether silent way is effective or not. This is called as silent way method, given or devised by Gallup-Cattagno. Meet you with the new method. Thank you.